Joe Abhold. I'm the director of the UW Oshkosh Counseling Center. I've been working in alcohol prevention actually for over 30 years, believe it or not. I am a local kid. I grew up in a cornfield not far from here, outside of a town called Freedom, Wisconsin. So I know about Wisconsin from the roots up. And I want to talk about alcohol today, and this is all serious stuff, all this health, these issues, they're very serious things. But I want to, before I show this slide, I want to give you permission to laugh. So the yellow is where there are more grocery stores than bars, and the red is where there are more bars than grocery stores. And the gray is where there's not many grocery stores or bars. Right? Okay, so Wisconsin, you can see the outline of Wisconsin, and that's kind of cute, but what does it really look like in a fine grain analysis? Recently there was a report released called the Burden of Excessive Alcohol Use in Wisconsin. It was released in March 2013, and it's the most fine grain, scientifically solid research about this area of alcohol use in Wisconsin that has been produced to date, as far as I know. And Wisconsin's annual alcohol consumption is 28% higher than the national average. Now, what the science tells us is that alcohol use is not the problem. Excessive alcohol use is the problem. Alcohol is not inherently bad. I am not a prohibitionist. I'm not opposed to alcohol, but I think that excessive alcohol and the things that we do or do not do as a society to curb that has significant consequences. So there's a level at which alcohol use becomes much more risky. And that is binge drinking. And Wisconsin is #1 in binge drinking. And that's an empirically derived term. As use goes to a certain point, there's a point at which risk skyrockets. Chief Broyle, I'm sure, can tell you that the people that they see that are behaving badly tend to be above a certain BAC. It's not the people who had a couple of beers who are creating problems. They're not creating problems in their homes, on the streets, those kinds of things. It's when it gets to be above that threshold of binge drinking. So what does this look like locally? So the United States is 16%. Wisconsin, the rate of binge drinking in the past 30 days, so in the past month, 23% of people in Wisconsin reported drinking at a binge drinking level. In Winnebago County, 24%. Outagamie County, 30%. I put that one in there. I wasn't sure what the districts of the folks here would be. This is in my references. There's a reference sheet with this in it, and it has every county, and it has their rates. The cost to Outagamie County is $272 million. The cost to Winnebago County of excessive alcohol use is $214 million annually in 2011 dollars. Not chump change.
How do you quantify that?
Pardon me?
How do you quantify that?
It is law enforcement costs, hospitalization costs, lost productivity, cost to families. A significant amount of it is borne by the drinker and their family, but there's large percentage of it that is borne by the rest of us as well. And the report does a really good job of specifying how they go through that. So I would definitely recommend it. It's excellent. If you do a Google search on the burden of excessive alcohol use in Wisconsin, you'll get it. It's a good report. So alcohol use is a personal choice, but why should the government interfere? We like our liberty, and I think that's a wonderful thing. The fact is, it's an individual behavior with population-wide consequences. It's an individual behavior with population-wide consequences. If it didn't have population-wide consequences, I'd sit down, because people have every right in the world to make their choices. But I think we have a responsibility to impact population-wide consequences. Over 1,500 deaths, 48,000 hospitalizations, 46,000 treatment admissions, 60,000 arrests, 5,700 motor vehicle crashes attributed to excessive alcohol use.
Is that statewide, Joe?
Yes, that is in the state of Wisconsin. So, it's costly. It's costly in terms of economics, societal costs, and human costs. So it's costly. We collect taxes, right? In 2011, we collected $69 million in alcohol taxes, and the cost of excessive alcohol use in Wisconsin was $6.8 billion. There's a little gap there. There's a little gap. Something to think about. So we need to address this. We need to address this by changing culture. We talked about product placement earlier with tobacco. And this is another reflection of product placement. This young man is at a convenience store, and he's picking up gum there. And these are all candy-flavored, airline-sized bottles of alcohol underneath there. And I'm not talking about that so much as a product placement issue. I'm talking about it as a cultural issue. And I have to say, that I've done this for my whole adult life. And I've been in this convenience store. And I didn't stop and say, are you kidding me? That's how deep this cultural issue goes, that we don't see much wrong with that. So it's a deep, important cultural issue. So the first step in recognizing and making a change is to realize that we have a problem. And Bucky says, hello, my name is Bucky, and I have a drinking problem. So you're probably sitting there thinking, well, this is pretty depressing, Joe. It's bad enough that we're into spring and it was 13 degrees this morning. Thanks. This is really a great pick-me-up. Seems kind of hopeless, I guess. Well, I don't believe that it is hopeless. Now, this is the percentage of U.S. college freshmen reporting frequent or occasional beer use in the year prior to the survey. So, for those of you who were rocking in the 80s, scoring hints, things were different then. Besides, it wasn't just the big hair and the air guitar.
Lord, it is.
Yes, yes. The alcohol use in my high school was huge. I can name the kids who died in drunk driving crashes in my high school. And I bet you everybody from my era can do that too. We still have that. Tragically, we still have that, but we have it less. The reason we have it less, primarily, I believe, is because of the legislative change of the 21-year-old drinking age. I think that legislation is the most powerful tool we have left. Prevention works. Prevention on its own is just kind of us nice people saying, hey, why don't you be happier and healthier? And for a lot of people, that's a good thing. But for some, it takes more than that. So this, to me, this is an optimistic trend. What we see in tobacco use is a very optimistic trend, driven by policy, legislation, and regulation. So I believe that changes are possible, and I believe that solutions exist. And I also believe that simple does not equal easy. And as people in the public sphere, you understand the forces better than I do. That simple does not equal easy. And I'm going to give you some things that would be as simple as legislation, and I'm sure the representatives here will tell me that passing that legislation, crafting that legislation, and getting support for that legislation is clearly not easy. Drinking age of 21 at bars and restaurants. Wisconsin and parts of Texas are the only place in the United States where people under 21 can go into licensed establishments and drink with their parents. The only one. The only statewide basis. I think it sends a cultural message. It sends a cultural message to me about the necessity of alcohol to have a good time. To me, that's the cultural message. It also doesn't make the point about the science of what we know about brain development. That the human brain is developing until that 21-year-old age and a little bit beyond. And that the human brain is different before 21. I have teenagers. I know about their inability to think ahead to begin with. Right? I was was flying through the air when I realized that wasn't a good decision. I've been told that by my son. So it just fails to recognize the science and what most of us have experienced. Sobriety checkpoints. Wisconsin law prohibits sobriety checkpoints. 38 states and the District of Columbia allow them. The CDC found that alcohol-related crashes are reduced 20% in states that implement sobriety checkpoints. Nighttime crashes and fatalities are reduced anywhere from 8% to 71% in areas where sobriety checkpoints are implemented. 70% of Americans support sobriety checkpoints. DUI. Wisconsin is the only state in the nation where the first DUI is not a crime, but rather a traffic ticket. And I think that what judges tell me, and if we look at the data, it's that there's a lot of people who get a first DUI, and then that's it. That's it. It becomes that second DUI, and that person who gets the second DUI is very much at risk for a third DUI and a fourth DUI, and having very high BACs when they get them. If the first one is a crime, with the second one you have significantly more leverage to enforce treatment. And treatment is really the answer. Beating up on people, you know, it's not a super law and order issue for me of being mean to people. But the fact that the courts can work with that person to enforce treatment and compliance with sobriety, that's what makes a difference. So your ability to respond to the second DUI is vital. And then the issue of taxes, we could call that a user fee perhaps, if it'd be more palatable. Wisconsin is 48th in the beers tax, 42nd in wine, 36th in distilled spirits. Increasing taxes is empirically demonstrated to reduce binge drinking. It's scientifically demonstrated to reduce youth drinking. Adolescents are very price conscious. That's why tobacco taxes have played a significant role in reducing youth smoking. So minors are particularly impacted by price points. So these are all very difficult. They can be difficult and challenging things to make happen in this state. But if you see where I started, you know, we're 20% greater. Well, we come from, I have a Germanic background. So, gosh, so we're going to kind of blame something that happened 150 years ago for our sustained culture in this regard. We have all of these examples of legislative impact and policy impact. And this circles back around into these consequences. The consequences of the human, societal, and economic costs in our state. So I encourage you to take a look at this report and look at what we can do to work together. Because like I said, prevention works. We really change behavior most significantly when we combine legislation and policy with treatment and prevention. That's when things really start to change. So I want to thank you all for doing the work that you do, and I want to thank you all for being here.